Hello guys, it's week 4 and that means we're at the end of a long month. Somehow we've managed to scrape through. But all we're going to do today in the video is do a Photoshop tutorial and talk about your final project, meme. Last week, I will go ahead and click over to it so we can talk about some of the examples. I asked you guys to look through these examples at the bottom of the page. You're supposed to pick either Benjamin Franklin or Martin Luther King Jr. and tell me what is it about these images that you thought worked, what didn't work, what sort of design principles were they using, were these things aligned, was there good contrast, that sort of thing. Which one do you feel pushed the message the best? Which one do you feel was appropriate? And so kind of a couple of things that I wanted to point out was I don't really think any of these is terribly great for Ben Franklin. But specifically, this one about the woods made no sense to me. It's also a bit blurry, but it just didn't push the message a penny saved is a penny earned at all. It's a sunset or a sunrise in a forest. Didn't make sense. This one didn't really make any sense to me. These two visually make some sense because there's pennies in this one and there's Ben Franklin in that one. But still, none of them really pushed the message for me. Now we get down to Martin Luther King. Obviously, this one is ridiculous because it's someone's shoes and then just the words, "I have a dream." This one where his image is coming out of his words I think is really good. This one I like, but I have a problem with the bold text behind it and the weird contrast of his gray image in front of it. The layers of contrasting here kind of is what drove me nuts, but I wasn't really sure how you guys would respond, and that's why I gave you all these different things to comment on. So now that we have all these examples that we were looking at, I think this one's really good. There's good contrast between the words here. They've centered the text so that there's not little hanging words. Although I might have moved over that character. I might have tried to widen that so that the character wasn't just a little orphan down there hanging by himself. So anyway, those were our examples from last week. So you have kind of an idea about what I want you to do. So what we're going to do is jump over to Photoshop. And I'll start with a new file because this is one I was messing around with earlier. Just go to New. Now you can take one of these backgrounds if you want. It's not going to hurt my feelings. Any of these might make a good background for your image, but I'm just going to go ahead and go with a blank presentation. It's going to be enough that we're going to have to deal with these two boxes here that they're going to give us. So the first things first, I'm going to make this easy for myself. I'm going to cut the second box, just so I don't even have to bother with it. That's not what I feel like dealing with right now. And in this text box, I am going to write my quote. And my quote is from novelist Ian McEwan. He was being interviewed about his book Atonement, and he discussed how he felt after 9/11 when the hijackers attacked the buildings. And he was describing that he thought that among their crimes, one was a failure of imagination, and that cruelty is a failure of imagination. And so that is my quote. I really like that quote. It stuck with me for years. But cruelty is a failure of the imagination. So there's my quote. I'll go ahead and throw a couple of capitals in there so it looks a little bit nicer. Alright, so we've got my text here and centered and everything. Now what I think I want to do is drag this little sucker up here, and if you'll remember, there's those little alignment lines popping up for us. That means that it's squared in the center. You got the one going up and down, you got the one going across. Isn't that nice? Nice little useful tools. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert an image. Ooh, well that was a little jump, but anyway, back to where we were. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to insert an image. Let me push this up to where you can see this. So I'm going to click on Insert. I'm going to go to Pictures. Now I have a couple pictures that I went ahead and pulled for this specifically. And there's a couple different images. One, we have these horrible hate monger guys with their torches, and I could use that and it would definitely push the rhetorical message that I intend behind this, but as far as reaching audience, I don't think it's going to do me any favors. Nobody wants to look at this guy's ugly mug. So then here I've got a sad dog at a shelter. Cruelty is a failure of the imagination. Once again, you can see how that relates to this. We could be talking about animal cruelty. The author was actually referring to the terrorist from 9/11, so it's not really the same as the author's intent, but it still gets the rhetorical message across, I think, of the isolated quote itself. Here's a little girl, she's being bullied. It's definitely cruel to bully a cute little girl like her. It's cruel to bully ugly little girls, but specifically this little girl is very cute and does not deserve to be bullied. The last image I had pulled up is Nazis, because they are the height and epitome of cruelty, so you can't deny them. But for the purpose of this, let's go ahead and pull this little girl up, because she's friendly, she's cute, nobody wants to see her bullied, but it doesn't make you feel too bad, so let's insert her. Now, they're going to give you a lot of design ideas over here, and you can totally go with these if you want. It's not really doing me any favors, it's not really doing you any favors as far as learning the program, but hey, why not take the easy way out? So we'll go ahead and say this one right here, because that gives us some more time to work with our font. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight cruelty as a failure of the imagination. I'm going to right click on it. Now we've got this serif style right now, which means that there's no accents on the horizontal or vertical. And what we can do is we can just kind of scroll down through what we have here and see which one we think goes with it. I like that. That's a little too roaring 20s. That's a little too silly for the quote itself. It doesn't really give the quote the gravity that it deserves. You know, I mean, you can look through all these and see that there's some that are more appropriate, that fit the picture and the message better. And so I'm just going to skip through here and pick one. I like a traditional style font. I'm very old school, old style font person. So we'll just do this, and then if you don't like the placement of the text, you can stretch this little bar out, and this is just a great program where it adjusts the text to fit the text box. It automatically shifts it over. Oh, if Gutenberg had this. But you can even take this and place it over the image. Know what I'm talking about correct placement. If you're going to do this, if you're going to superimpose the text over the image, then don't do it over her pretty little eyes. Try to place it somewhere where it's going to have the most impact and the most contrast. That would be a decent place. You might want to throw a little bit of bold on it. But I think I'm going to go ahead and stick with this over here to the side, because she's looking over here. She's looking at the words. You can see that the line of the image kind of draws you down that way, and so I really like how this has turned out. So now what I'm going to do is come up here to File. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to click Save As, and I think I'm going to go ahead and put it on my desktop, because that's where I can find things. Now it allows you to save it as various types. What I'm going to do is save it as, oh heck, let's save it as a PDF. No, I think I'm gonna wanna put it on the site. So I think what I'll do is a JPEG. JPEGs are really easy. They go on pretty much everything. Oh well, I mean, all slides, just this one. We'll say all slides. Okay, well it's just one slide, but thank you. So it's a really helpful program, and like I was saying, feel free to play around with this. If you like that, see this one doesn't really work with this image because the girl's face is obscured by that. You could use that one. You can use their design ideas. I'm not going to get mad at you. But if you're going to use their design ideas, you better use it well, because all you're having to do is click on this. I'm going to expect you to change at least one thing, like move a box or something. Show me that you played around with the alignment lines. Just get to know this program, because this program is going to be so useful to you going forward. And it does give you all these different options once you start playing around with it. And there's other things that you can do that are more useful in the PowerPoint format, not so much in the slide format. Let's go ahead and X out of here. Yeah, we saved it already. And we'll X out of here. We're not going to save this one. So here we are back at week 4. And I'm going to scroll down and just kind of go through this real quick. Meme. You should read this on your own. What we're going to do is take the quote from week 1, superimpose the image just like I showed you in PowerPoint. This is what we're talking about here. And then for our part 2 assignment, I'm going to need you to write an essay. to describe and explain the choices that you made in composing your multimodal project using PowerPoint. Discuss the design choices, why you selected a text, why you selected the image, where your quote, what the original intent behind the author's quote was. You can kind of summarize your blog post from week 1. Let's not exactly quote from it. You can paraphrase it. But just make, a general paper. This paper is going to need to be 5 strong paragraphs long, so you're going to need at least 3 body paragraphs, an introduction, and a conclusion. But I think there's plenty of material here for you to do all this, especially with the reflection being part of this essay. You can reflect on the unit, what you've learned, what you wish you'd learned, what worked well for you, what didn't work well. If there was something that was here that you weren't expecting, I'd like to know if you liked it or not. If there wasn't something here that needed to be here, be specific and tell me so that I can fix it. I'm always about correcting my mistakes and making my job and my webpage more readable for you, the viewer. So that's it. Here's the end of it, and I hope you guys had a great time. Dr. Greer, I hope you enjoy this too. And that's it. Bye.